What's up, YouTube? I got another review for you. Just been knocking out reviews today, so hopefully I'll get some new ones up. Today, or right now, on this review, we're going to be covering the Spyderco company Byrd, B-Y-R-D, B-Y-R-D, Meadowlark 2. There it is right there. And let me just say, it's actually a decent blade. I've had this blade for a while. I think I've had it for at least a year now. And whenever I have used it, I carried it for quite some time. I carried it for a couple months when I first got it, and I really liked the Byrd. But then I kept noticing things about it that I didn't like, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But I'll just kind of throw some specifications at you guys. Basically, the Meadowlark 2, which is made by Byrd, it is basically there's a sub company off of Spyderco, and they basically they have the same quality controls. I say quality controls as Spyderco, and most of their products that they put out are pretty nice, but they're on the relatively inexpensive end. And a lot of people, well, at least I like to dub this the poor man's Delica. And I know that I've seen other people say that too, and I totally agree with that idea, that it is for those people that cannot afford Spyderco's. It's a lesser line of knife, but you're still getting a lot of knife for what you're paying for. And I mean, it's a really really good quality knife. It uses lesser grade steels to complete most of the components. It uses FRN handles to basically subsidize like G10 or any of those other higher quality materials that you can find on knives. And it's not a bad looking knife, and it actually feels really nice in the hand. It's very well rounded. It doesn't hurt or feel as if it really abuses the hand. And when I have cut with it or done cutting tasks with it, it doesn't hurt my hands at all, which is really nice. I think one of the things that I truly like about this knife is just how really it just fits really well in the hand when you pinch up on the knife. It's got a nice little choil right here for like a finger groove with actual jimping for your actual finger to go into and really pinch up on the knife for doing close work tasks, small work. And it also has really nice striations that are jimping up here on the top that work as well. They're all right. I mean, they could be deeper and they could be better and more aggressive, but for a cheap knife, it's not bad. I want to say these knives run for the 20 to 25, maybe $30 range, depending on the model and the make and how they have it. I know that they have this version. I think it comes in a G10 version, which is it's an upgrade above this FRN. I didn't get that version just because I wanted to see how cheap I could go and what the quality was like on the cheaper versions. I saw the G10 versions, and I haven't really been tempted to buy them. I haven't been really tempted to buy the more expensive versions of the Byrd, or any more Byrds really for that matter, because of one specific fact, and I'll get to that. I promise I'll get to it. I have a whole setup for that. But basically, the blade length, the full blade length on this is actually it's 2 7/8 of an inch in length, and it's got a decent cutting surface. They did cut off a little bit of your cutting surface due to this kind of indent for your finger, but it doesn't really change the factor of the knife. I would have liked them to actually continue the knife out. You can kind of see where the knife kind of ends right there on the handle. There's still like the slightest bit, that they could have pushed that knife and just made it a little bit longer, which would give you a little bit more cutting surface. Not a big deal. I mean, it really doesn't change anything for the knife, but I still really, it's a really still positively gripped knife. The blade is actually made out of 8CR13 MOV, which is that not cheap Chinese steel, but it's a Chinese manufactured steel. And it takes an edge really nice, and it has a decent corrosion resistance to weather and moisture environments. I haven't really run into, out of all my Spyderco knives and all the other knives that I have that have 8CR13 MOV in it, I haven't yet really run into any rust problems. I'm sure that other people have. I personally have not run into any problems with rusting, even when using it for camp chores or anything. So it seems to be a decently quality stainless steel, or a lower end quality stainless steel, or whatever you guys want to, whatever category you guys want to put it under. It's definitely not the highest quality that you can get, but it works and functions just fine for what it is. So the knife itself is like, I mean, it's good and it locks up tight. I mean, when I first got this knife, I messed around with it and tried to jiggle it loose and everything. But I personally have not found any flaws or anything within the knife as far as the lockup on it. And I've kind of thumped on this thing really hard, kind of used it to do a light batoning just to kind of see how far I could push the entire envelope of the knife. And honestly, I really enjoy the blade shape too. It's got the full flat ground from the top to the bottom. There are no striations. It's totally buffed clean, which is really, I mean, thumbs up. You know, it's really funny because here I am paying $20 to $25 for a knife that's manufactured over in China, and but you see Buck knives have like the striations on them, and they don't buff their knives, but yet you're paying the same price, and they're made here in America, which is, you know, it's good, but at the same time, it's like they're spending, you know, these cheaper company knives, these Byrd knives, they're spending the same amount in materials and everything, but yet they buff their knives. Why can't Buck buff their knives? You know, that's just one of those things. It's kind of like you start thinking about it, and really you start talking about quality assurance, and I mean, Spyderco, they make sure that they produce quality knives. And the only thing that I found wrong with this knife is that when I first got it, it was almost impossible. I had to use two thumbs. I have pretty strong thumbs, and I had to use two thumbs to kind of undo that lock. I think I may have gotten a lemon out of the deal, but we'll kind of get to the whole locking mechanism. It does have the the Boyle dent back here, like other Spyderco knives, so that's kind of nice. And the texturing on the FRN handles is really nice. It's like a bird, almost like bird, skin, or like what you'd see like on a chicken, a defeathered chicken, and it's very aggressive. I mean, it really tacks in. You almost have to like really push your hands into it to get them to slip. And so I honestly feel like the knife itself is very, when it's in the hand and it's wet, it's very positive grip. And I could see it being a very good defensive blade, and a utility purposes. So that's kind of nice. And it does have stainless steel liners, which makes it strong. It adds to the whole lockup of the whole entire knife. It does have a reversible pocket clip. You can do all four corners, so that's really nice. It gives you a lot of options. It's got a really nice hole there for a lanyard hole that goes all the way through, as if it wouldn't. But basically, the entire knife is very well built and well manufactured. And I don't know. I'll go ahead and talk about what I was going to talk about. I don't know about other people that have gotten Byrd knives, but the Meadowlark, when I received it, I first noticed that it was an awesome knife. But then when you start using it and noticing how often you have to sharpen it, I noticed that when I was sharpening my knives, there was the tiniest bit. There was like right here on the blade, there was a flat spot on the blade. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe it was just a problem with manufacturing, so I buffed it out. Well, I used my knife and I opened and closed it and everything, and then guess what? That flat part came back again. And I was like, what? Like, where in the world is that flat part coming from? So I literally took the knife apart, and I'll kind of show you guys a nice breakdown of what I actually found on the inside of the knife. These are my handy-dandy drawings here, my handy-dandy notebook. So this is a rendering of the Byrd knife, basically tilted on its side like that. Okay, so you guys kind of tell. Almost match it up, right? Okay, it's a little less than perfect, but that's okay. Basically what happens is the blade comes out, right, and it comes down, and it locks into its whole body. Well, what I noticed was I took the whole thing apart, and I noticed that the blade was actually resting on the bar, the retention bar, which acts as the spring for the actual locking mechanism. So when you indent the lock, when you indented the lock on the bottom section of the thing to disengage it, right? It was basically the bar. What the bar was doing was it was curved up too high and then came back down too aggressively. And so the actual knife, when I closed the knife, was actually resting on the freaking bar. What? How do you miss that in the manufacturing process? So I was like, I'm very mechanically inclined, and so I went ahead and I took the bar out and I fiddled with the bar, and I made sure that I didn't try to overstress the bar, and I basically rebent. If you see this black line at the bottom, that's like where the new bar. Basically, I had to rebend the bar so that way the knife wasn't resting on the actual pin itself, or the actual spring itself, and it's resting more on the actual back end over here. So it's actually sitting upright. It's sitting where it's supposed to be, and not on the bar lock. And it won't be touching the inside of the actual plastic that comes along the inside of the actual body, the FRN handles. So that was one thing I noticed with the whole Byrd thing, and that really pissed me off because I don't like taking apart my knives and having to fix knives that should be, they should have a quality assurance to them. Even though we're talking about a $20 knife that, that doesn't, when you pay for, when you're paying for a knife that is cheap, you're most likely going to get a cheap product. And I mean, honestly, it wasn't that large of a flaw. And luckily, I have the know-how and the can-do of taking it and retooling it and making it work for me. That was just one thing, though, I noticed. It really just upset me, with the knife. And I was just kind of like, man, that really sucks. Because the last thing you really want is to order one of these knives and constantly have to resharpen the middle of the knife because there's always like a thing, because it's an uneven cutting surface, especially when I was going to cut paper or anything or doing cut tests. It would catch right there and just, shred the paper. And it would be not good. And it just, I mean, come on, that's one thing you guys got to think about, Spyderco. I'm kind of talking to you guys, like, if you're going to design a knife, make sure that the quality is pretty good. Now, and I don't know if, I do not know if other people have had these kind of problems with the Meadowlark, too. And I don't know if they're also in the other series. I know there's the the Byrd Cara, and the Meadowlark 1, series. And then I think they have like the Robin and some other Byrd names, but it's just one of those things you kind of keep in mind when you're buying knives is, you may end up with a lemon. And if you do, I didn't want to send it back to the company because I didn't feel like it was worth sending it back to the company and paying all that money to send this back so that they could fix a problem or I could get a new knife. Like, I just was, in the moment, I was just kind of like, what, I think I can fix that issue without having to go through the hassle of sending it back, not having the knife, wanting it, back, and then kind of being like, oh, we'll just send you a new one or whatever. It's just like there's too much back and forth, and I just decided whatever. And it didn't really, I didn't affect the knife in any way. Like, it still functions as cleanly, and actually, it's not as hard now to push that lock back. I only have to use one thumb to push that lock in to have it flip closed. So that's one thing I will say that actually I improved the knife over where and how I got it. So other than that, though, the lockup is fine. It cuts great. It has a high, decent corrosion resistance, but not so great that it's like, it's definitely not like VG10 or H1 steel. Basically, the knife is really good. It's really solid. And for a $25 knife, you're really getting a lot of knife for your money. And especially since a lot of people, some people can't afford Delicas or Spydercos, I would say this is a really great middle point if you're just like really desperate and you want to have something to grab onto to kind of play with and thumb on. And I actually feel like if you look at the Delica series, I actually feel like this is almost an improvement over the Delica design. I feel like the Delicas could have done this with their knives, and I don't know why they don't do that with their knife. And just having this like a Delica, it's the same Delica blade shape and everything, the leaf blade shape. You'd think that they would think about that aspect because it feels so much more positive in the hand when you have it. Because I think the Delica, it has like a little riser that comes up, so you don't get to use that full advantage of the blade. So, anyways, that was just my 2 cents on the whole knife, and it's a good knife, and I still pick it up and play with it and take it out and I put it in my pocket, and it fits really well in my pocket. I didn't have any problems with the pocket clip, other than it moves a little bit back and forth. And they were smart enough that they made there's a flat area right underneath. It's basically the reverse of it is this flat area, so it doesn't catch on your clothing when you're slipping it in and out of your pocket, as a pocket clip. And it sits decently deep. They could have made it deeper. I think they could have done a better job with the clip. But I know you guys probably agree with me that Spyderco could do a little bit better job with their clips. I mean, they work and they're functional. They could just go deeper with them. And I mean, and some guys want, a little bit of something to pinch onto. I personally like deep carry knives. That's about it. So if you guys have any more comments, or if you've had any problems with Spyderco or Spyderco Byrd knives, let me know, and hopefully we can get, maybe say something or maybe change something about the product and make it a little bit better than what it was. Well, I hope you guys liked my review. If there's any more questions, or if you guys have anything, please make a comment, and I can either update the video or whatever, and we can talk about issues, problems, or likes, dislikes. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Be safe out there.